Hello everyone, how you doing today? Thought I would do a second part to this modularity experiment and testing. And to start with, I realized I was doing something wrong. The way I was looking at it on the last video was that it actually took these physical pieces and copied them to memory. What it actually was doing though is remembering where the selection box was and then giving you like a name so you can see what part you're going to copy again. And I checked out a video by Lift Pizzas, and that helped a lot. So I did a little bit of testing before this. I also went through the two parts that were built and colored and textured them a little bit more. But what my plan is now is I want to build two more parts and then do some assembly to build something out of it. See how that comes out. So the first part I wanted to build is a 9x9 floor section that would basically fit on the interior space of a standard wall, which is, actually, is it 9x9? No, it's not. It's 7. Okay, so 7x7 area instead. I'm sorry about that. So I'm going to just start building right out from where this wall part is here. And we want to go out 7 blocks. And this is a fairly simple part. I don't expect this to take very long at all. There we go. So we got a floor. The ceiling, I'm just going to kind of match the pattern that's in this part for now. However, if these were facing the other direction, it would probably be a little bit problematic. Maybe I ought to try to account for that in there. Actually, I'm gonna. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is slap in something that matches that row, this lower indentation across here, and then we'll go with we'll follow that on through, going across here and here. Just trying to determine if this is actually going to work right or not. Not really. Okay, I'm going to keep it a little simpler. I'm just going to put in the standard half blocks here and just have it go one direction for now. Maybe make a alternative version that does it differently later. But yeah, the idea behind all this is building up some parts and that aren't terribly big or time consuming to build, and then be able to lay all those parts out and build something much bigger and more extravagant out of it in a fairly quick time frame, comparatively speaking, to building everything from scratch. Now, benefits to this, obviously a lot less work for bigger stuff. Side effects would be more repetitiveness, but that's okay with certain things. I mean, certain things do have repetitiveness. So here, I'm just going to do my normal thing here, and I'll keep the part fairly simple right now, not too elaborate or detailed. I will color it this time though. Just getting rid of a lot of the little metal line things here, kind of have a cleaner appearance. Okay, so that's kind of the ceiling. Just try to get in something in here to make it a little bit more detailed here. Now, I haven't done any of this with symmetry on either because I fear it won't work very well for what I'm trying to do right now. I'm sure I could on this particular part, but most part this isn't taking too long anyway. Just getting a little bit of a pattern in there with the one texture. Okay, so then on the floor, and what I've been doing, I'm just going to keep the floor generic. I've been putting down red carpet, but it's really about it here. And this is my same color palette I typically use with all the human factions. And it's basically like some of these colors I muted down a little bit so they're not quite as vibrant, and then use a few different grays. Alright, I probably ought to do something with the ceiling too here in a minute. Just generally clean it up a little bit, but I don't think I want to do too much to it. And the reason I do that, I just find it a little bit more believable looking with less lines. Now I tell you what would be really, really, really cool is if there was some more decals, and say some line decals that where you could actually kind of try to put decals over a chunk to create like seams, but even some like angled ones. I mean, it would be very, very cool. Say if I wanted like this to look like a metal part that was here, and I have like a line that went angled here and across here and over to here, and then maybe angled this way again, and then no lines in between that particular part, just the outside line. Then you could really make some neat looking like body panels and things like that. It's just a thought, an idea, something I was thinking of on how to possible solution for trying to make that kind of thing. Okay, so this part pretty much good enough right now. I'll do all these little tweaks later. This is more about testing. Okay, so I'm going to add this to the set of existing parts. Hold on. I feel compelled to just color the sides here. There. Makes me happy. Okay. So now I'm going to grab this. Do a selection, and oh man, I did the wrong tone on this. Oh well. Again, since these are just parts, I can tweak and modify them after the fact too. Basically until it's ready to actually build a final piece out of it. So with these parts too, I'm going to try to be very accurate and not go over the edges. That could be really bad in doing something like this. Okay, so here is the 7x7 area. And now what I want to do is we'll say, here, we're gonna call this, oh geez, I don't know, center area 1. Okay. Alright, so now that's in the list. Here, let me remove the selection. So now what we do have here are 3 parts. So we got wall 1, wall corner 1, and center area 1. Next part I wanted to build is a wall piece that would angle out 7 blocks at an angle kind of from there and meet up to the other side at the same location. So it would again match the 4 blocks out that these wall parts actually are. So they're kind of like a this is a 4x7 Well, it's actually 3 by 7 on this one, but the corners go out a little bit more. So I'll tell you what, we're going to not show those parts again. And we're just going to go through and build out one more piece. And so, generally speaking, what I know this piece is going to have to do is come out to here, and then, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I get that right, I think one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I think that is wrong now. Okay, got one too many blocks there. Oh, wait a minute, this should be 7. No, I did have it right. Is that 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I didn't go out far enough. Duh. There we go. Okay, so this is the general shape piece, but what I wanted to do is kind of trick it out a little bit. So I'm thinking about trying to do kind of an inverted roundish thing over here, kind of opposite of what this corner is doing. So here, for now, I'm just going to kind of extend this out a little bit. Maybe a block. Let's try 2 blocks. And then we'll start to expand on that. You know what, we're going to use a different one here. We're going to try this instead because I'm trying to keep the ceiling of this a half block height and not a full block. So we'll do that, and that's kind of a 45 right there though. Okay, just a quick rethink here a minute. We're going to start it back a little bit further. Actually, I'm going to start it right at the base. I want to see how this works out. And then we're going to switch to this set of wedges. We're going to run out 2 blocks. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to be able to at a half height. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I almost forget. There is this piece that I think could pull it off. Okay, let's try. Let's try. Okay, so we'll just kind of carry this on through to 1 block size. So that should still line up. Now here, we're going to go into one of these, and then that, I think a couple more of these. And I believe one more. So then this converts back into the other angle, if I got it right. I think it's right. So then one of these transitions, and then a wedge. And at the very end, another one of these guys here. Alright, let's fill that in. Okay, so that's the ceiling. Now this block here is probably going to go away, but now I want to do something with the floor. I kind of want it to match the same edge design as the ceiling, but we're going to do this at a different angle, I believe. I can use full blocks here, so it gives a little bit different possibilities. So we're going to go with this these alt wedges here, and let's see, it would have to go 3 out. so it's got a lip. It's going out one more, which is kind of cool. I actually like that. So, and then from here, we want to transition into these. Let's get this lined up right. So then I would think we would actually want to, here, I'm going to just fill this in with a couple of those. We'll delete them in a second. Go out 3 like that. And then transition back into this. Actually, that's the wrong part. This one here first. Then that. Then this. Okay, so this, my starter row here, doesn't need to be there anymore. Okay, so now we know this should line up, I believe, to both this part and these corners here. Okay, so we're just going to fill this area in with a floor now. I'm kind of messing this up though. Where am I? I don't know yet. Because now what I've got is this this 3 chunk over here, or well, actually 2 extra blocks that aren't gonna fit if I copy this around. So I'm thinking this particular piece, in order to make it actually work, would have to compensate for the walls as well and be a little bit bigger. Let's try that out. So I get my alignment down. I'm going to kind of simulate a walk path here. Fill this in with a bunch more half blocks. That's kind of fun, experimenting with new stuff. I do like to do that too. That brings me up to another thing too. I noticed there's a patch yesterday, and I have heard about it. I haven't messed with it much yet because I was really tied up with working on that CV and other things, but there's some new LCD technology, and including a projection LCD. So that's I briefly looked at it yesterday since the patch came through, but I didn't want to flip to experimental before because I was just so busy working on other things. I didn't want to wanted to get that done first. Alright, so I'm not sure if I got this piece right or not. Guess we'll find out. Keep it pretty basic at the time. Alright, so yeah, it is weird how I got this. It's not going to work out right. I don't think. Actually, this one wouldn't be like that though. And yeah, it just goes out too far. I fear I did this wrong. How do I correct that? Okay, I tell you what. Let's do a little copying around. I want to see just how this works out a minute. So we're going to get into the selection. First thing I want to do is just touch on the item I want, and then you can see your parts here. what I want to do right now is I want to take the central area 1 and okay, central area 1, and then we want to copy to selection. But okay, so now basically that just puts your selection box around it. It doesn't actually have it into memory, and that's what was kind of messing me up before. For some reason I thought these were stored, but it's actually just storing this selection box. So now I have to copy it, and then I can paste it, and then it should work as normal, like what you see going on here now. So I'm going to paste that there. Now I believe when doing this as well, I should be able to exit out of the menu and move around. If I hit N again, it remains. So yeah, everything is working right. So that's cool. So now I got the idea of that. Biggest problem I've got here on this block is, you know, and I think it's my fault. I think I just made it too far out on this side. So let me hammer, get rid of this stuff. A minute. Yeah. Well, still didn't do it quite right. So I'm leaving these this 2-block gap in here, and to keep this part square so it can be rotated at all directions, I'm gonna have to get rid of this. And I think that's just a side effect because I've got uneven sized parts, because the edges are not like 7 by 7 like the interior parts are. So that's a dilemma on my part. So something I'll have to rework on my strategy. And again, this is all for testing. I wanna know what I'm doing before I actually try to make something more for actually building something for the workshop or POIs or whatever it might end up being. Okay, so here, let's just get this part tweaked out a little bit better. Pretty ugly right now. How do I want to do this one? Want more windows or not? You know what I do want? I want a little indentation over here, but it doesn't necessarily need windows. I got enough windows in the other parts. So I'm purposely putting these 1 block back from the edge to leave that lip. Okay, now on the top part here, this is mostly angled over there. Probably ought to try to maintain that. So let's try these again. A couple like that. One of these. And then down into this. Probably 3 of those. And back out again. I tell you what, ever since I figured out these this set of blocks, I've been using those quite a lot in the builds, almost as much as everyone's probably favorite group of what am I doing of these other wedge blocks over here, these guys over here. But yeah, having both in there, I just love the possibilities on what you can do with shaping. Really kind of expand things out and get into shapes that I would have never even attempted before. Okay, so this part's general, got the general layout here. Let's give it a quick skin and a little bit of color. Not too fancy right now. Figure if I do use any of these pieces, I will try to go through and like dress them up after the fact. But I just want them kind of a little bit pretty. Alright. Because of my little bit of design flaw in thinking on this, I've got this other gap part here now. Not the end of the world. I can still do the exterior of the structure, but it might need a weird size part that fits in those things too. Alright. So let's see where we stand here. So we've got wall, or we've got center area. We want to make a new selection here. So start there and we'll get this dragged out. Do a little verification. Okay, it looks pretty good right now. Alright. And then we're going to add this to the list. We're going to call this wall corner. I'll just keep it simple here. Wall corner 2. Okay. So that's in the list. Alright, so let me remove the selection right now. Alright, so let's try to do something with this. You know what though? This is bugging me. I gotta just build something here real quick. I don't like what I'm doing here, but I still want it to look like a complete building at least when it's done. I think it'd be better off if you had every block the same dimensions. Like if I made the walls that came out and they actually went out to 7 blocks, and then of course this corner would be 7 by 7 and this piece would be 7 by 7. You'd have a better time fitting all this in. So that's a little bit bad thinking on my part there, but it's just, this is what I'm trying to do though, is learn. Clean that up just a bit on the inside. I guess right now I don't need to do too much with that. And alright, so I'm going to do one more selection here. So add this one, we're going to call it filler part. Filler part 1. Okay. Pretty undetailed there for sure, but that's alright. Oh, man. Well, you know what? Here's another nice little interesting thing though, because it remembers the selection box and not the actual piece. If I make changes after the fact to this, like say I wanted to paint this white, it shouldn't matter. I don't have to update it because it's going to grab the same thing I just copied there. Alright, so here we go. Now we're going to try to build this out into something bigger. So to start with, I want to make sure I've got this selected and I just basically touched on it. And now I'm going to grab, let's say wall 1, And we're going to copy to selection. And we're going to copy that, and then I'm going to paste that. So now I'm going to take this, drag it out over to here. Okay, so that's the right spot. I'm going to paste it again. All right. So at this point, let's add in another corner here a minute, the smaller corner. So I'm going to go to wall corner 1, and I'm going to hit. Actually, I'm curious. I don't know if I need to remove my selection yet, but I'm going to try it without it. See what happens. Nope. Okay. So wall corner 1 selected. Copy, paste, and we're going to move you over to here. And we're going to paste you again. Okay. So now let's take, I guess, another wall part. And copy, paste. What we're going to want to do over here is rotate this. And get that in position there. All right. Okay. Well, next part, let's grab one of these center areas. Yeah, it's working pretty nice now that I know what I'm doing here. So we got the center area. Copy, paste. We're going to pop that in over here. Just check my, see how that's coming out. Except because of my, the wacky thinking, I really believe I need to have this over here instead. Because that other part is the filler. Yeah, that's something I would probably alter if I was actually going to get ready to do this for real and build something out of it. Alright. So let's get another corner in here as well since we're at it. Corner 1. Copy to selection. Copy, paste, and we're going to put that over here. And rotate you. And paste. Alright. And let's grab another wall. Like everything else, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. I remember when I first started messing with the N key tools, I kind of got screwed up a little bit on it, and then I kind of figured it out, and then after that it was pretty solid. For the most part, except for, of course, this feature that I'm doing in this build. I got that right? No. Okay. Paste. And what happens if we take a center area? Alright. So I'd like to get in another one of these pieces yet. So let's do this wall corner 2. So yeah, that's not going to fit that way. Okay. Alright, so let me go a different direction with it then. It would work this way though. Oh, actually, I think what this is meant to line up to is the other corner. I think that's why I've got the problem there. Again, I would have avoided all these issues I'm having if I would have kept every block the same size. So that's something I would definitely alter for ease of use. I guess this kind of works, though, but I have a feeling because of my two different size parts, I'm just going to run into continual issues with it, like what this is. But we'll paste it here anyway. What the heck? Okay, so I'm going to remove the selection for now. See what we've got. Alright, well, live and learn. So it's a little bit flawed. Shouldn't have probably done this size piece, and these should have been out further on the actual parts. I could probably even reduce the size of the parts. 7x7 was just, hypothetical and what I thought might be a good size part, but I guess you could go bigger or smaller with them. And of course, other features too. Like here, I want to do one other experiment. I'm going to spawn in a different base a minute. Something that's got parts I could copy from it. And maybe try to add it to over here. So let's take one of these, God, what is this? Okay, defense base. Okay, this is that one that I had up on the my unfinished projects here. And let's say I really like, let's find a turret. Say I like this turret over here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to select this turret. Okay, so I think I got that. It's gonna, here, I'm gonna bring it up one more block though, so I don't cut part of the building. Okay, so we're gonna copy this. Now, as far as I know, to move this to another building, and I haven't done this yet, so this is another new part, but it was also in the Lift Pizzas tutorial that I seen. So what I know is I need to select this building, or touch on it, or maybe, okay, and then I can paste. Not sure on this option yet though. Select building block and toolbar. Let me just see what happens if I do paste. Doesn't look like anything. So, darn it, now I screwed that part up. I should have practiced beforehand. Let me try one more time. Okay, so we still have this over here. Oh, it pasted it over here. I got it. I didn't paste it where I thought it was going to. Alright, I'm going to try that other option. I'm going to first, let's just undo. Oh, it's undoing all the stuff on the other building. Never mind. Let's redo that. Okay. Okay, so we still have, oh, well, we actually have it here. But I don't think I'm doing this right here. I'm going to paste it over here so it's just away from the building. And we're going to copy it. I'm going to, again, touch somewhere out here to select this building. But I didn't actually do that yet. Okay, selection, remove selection. Okay, so now we've got this selected. What happens if I paste? Ah, there we go. That's how it works. Okay, good deal. So now we've got a turret over here. I'll just raise that up a block here so it doesn't chop out the ceiling. And we'll put that over here. And here I'll copy and paste it again. Let's add another one somewhere else over here. Alright. Okay, so now we got some really cool floating turrets and some parts that don't exactly work, but some of them do, I guess. But the knowledge gained, that's what it was all about. Not really building anything specific, just learning. So I think that proved to be a success. Opens up the door. So essentially, you could build something that has all these parts, a whole bunch of parts laid out, a whole set to build something, structures and things like that, and then actually take those parts, copy them from one building, or copy them from that, and start like a brand new structure and assemble all those pieces to build it. Which is, remarkably faster than trying to manually build everything. So it's pretty interesting. And actually, I mean, if you look at like all this, there really wasn't much time into this at all. So, all right. Well, hey, I wanted to do that, and I hope I corrected my mistakes and showed you guys a little bit better this time on what was going on with that. One other little thing too, when you copy and paste parts, sometimes you'll see that even though this base has power, your new parts aren't like on, like the texture lights you can obviously see are not not working and things like that in the new areas. Just a very quick thing, shut the base off. So go over to the base, hit Y usually to turn it off, wait a couple seconds, turn it back on, and then everything kicks back on. Basically, you just reboot it. So, okay, well, before I go today, I wanted to show just a little bit more updates on this MX-12H. More or less got the interior finished off. Get out of God mode a minute. And so it's textured and lit and all that fun stuff. I'm down to the last portion, and that is with LCDs. And I have noticed I was trying to copy some LCDs from one of my existing ships, and it's due to the changes in the LCDs. Although the LCD in the existing ship is showing exactly how it should, but when I copied and pasted over here, it wasn't quite the same. So I'm kind of having to remake the LCDs. But then there's a whole lot of new technology behind that, so I think it's a good time to do that anyway. And then with the projection LCDs, that would be really cool to incorporate some of that into this ship, since it's now in the mainstream patch. So I'm going to reevaluate how I'm doing these screens right now and see if I can come up with a different solution on it. I was also brought up too that the lag shot blocks that I'm using aren't necessarily the best ones for size class and whatnot. And a little bit more explanation on lag shot is or what's happening. What you're trying to accomplish in the end isn't so much about like putting a specific block here. It's about having these gaps in between blocks, this open space. So say I was a projectile flying in at this thing. When it does a collision detect, it's looking at, is this touching this? And if so, then do something else. But what happens for efficiency purposes, for instance, let me get rid of a couple of these blocks here, and we'll just put in some full blocks. So after putting in these 3 blocks, you notice how it's almost like it disappeared. What's happening is it's now taking those, and I believe it's a form of optimization in the game to not have to render anything more than it needs to help with frame rate and things like that. So it's kind of like it's looking at all these in here as where they don't have like in between walls, and I believe what's happening is if you do get lag in the game, when it's doing a collision detect, it doesn't detect this as easy as it does when there's open space in between blocks. So what I do plan on doing with this is removing some of this lag shot. I might leave some in places, it depends on the situation, and try other blocks. It was recommended in the comments to actually take a look at some of these other like simple wedge blocks like this. The point is, some of these blocks with higher polygons will probably do a better job, but they really rack up the size class fast. And since I'm on I don't want to really increase the size class of this ship. I'm looking at blocks with as few of edges as it can be. I mean, if you break down like this part here, it has very few actual triangles in it, and the more triangles you have, it's basically into polygons and how many points you have. So this is a simpler block, should be less expensive towards the game engine than these are. Now these aren't too horribly bad compared to some of the other blocks, but I could do something like this just as easy and probably reduce the size class of the ship. And then another factor to consider is how many hit points does each block have. For these, actually, not that it's making a huge difference, but these actually have 3 more hit points than what this does. And of course a full block is 200. So I'm probably going to replace a lot of those blocks that you don't see anyway with those wedges instead, and I probably drop a little bit of size class in the process, and I think it would be just a hair bit stronger. I mean, there's hardly 3 hit points on a block isn't much, but so those are the plans I have with this, basically to try to reinvent the way I'm doing LCDs and to replace the leg shot on this. And this is probably going to be the next release, and the goal is to have it ready this weekend and maybe release Sunday again like I did with the other ship. I do try to space out things that I release by a week typically. Sometimes it goes over, sometimes a day or 2 under, but I don't like to put out stuff too quickly. And there's other things I could release as well. One last thing too, when I showed all those other items a couple of videos ago, there's been some requests for some of them, and I guess I didn't make it clear on which all of them that I showed were available. I believe 2 were claimed, and there was a couple comments about I know. And I apologize. I should have grabbed the name first, but I know someone wanted the gray building that was in front of the sign, and I'm trying to figure out what building that was. I think but other ones that I'm really I'm curious if anybody wants, especially this one. I would love to see this one get done. I determined I'm not going to do anything more with it. But if someone wants this structure, please let me know. And if they want to, finish it off and do whatever they want with it, it's basically how it sits. It's basically the exterior is built, but it's totally untextured, and there's no interior part design or anything like that. And keep in mind, a base like this, although I believe it is okay, the size class isn't quite as bad as I thought it was. It's size class 4 currently. It does have some wiggle room, and maybe it could stay within size class 5 after finished off. It depends on how much lights and deco and what you do with the interior on how much more size class it'll accumulate. But yeah, if anybody wants this one, let me know. Same goes for this one. I don't think I'm going to do anything more with it. I like it, but if someone wants it and to finish it off and to make it into something, you can post it to the workshop under your name. You don't even have to mention me as, starting these things. I don't care. I just cool to see if they were done. I'm so tied up with so many other projects and I keep on thinking of new ideas and things of stuff to build that I just fear I'm probably never going to get back to these things. Speaking of that too, there was something else I forgot to show in that other video, and I have 2 of these 3 on my workshop as friends only, and that was when I was getting into this city project. Now I haven't done much with that as of recently, but the idea I had behind building these essentially fake buildings, and these are carbon substrates. It looks like it's got a huge amount of glass in it, but it doesn't have actually any glass. This is just marble texture, trying to make it look like they're windows, which I found to be very useful at a distance because your actual glass will disappear to make the game run smoother, so it doesn't have to render as much stuff. But these windows, well, fake windows, they don't disappear, so you can see them at a great distance, which is awfully nice with that. So these are just fake buildings to put together a city. At the time when I was into this, what I really wanted to do is redo the bases on these buildings and have it so you could use console commands to perfectly line this stuff up, and then add in other things such as streets and things like that. Now, I might get back to this at some point in time, but I kind of upset that I really haven't done anything with these. And there's 3 buildings. 2 were pretty much complete, and the other one was still a work in progress. This is a different one. This one was a taller building. And speaking of like modularity and copying and pasting, this had a lot of that done to it too. I mean, when I started this building, of course this base is mostly unique, but then like this chunk here, I just copied over and over and over again, and then I did a little bit more of the copying on the back, but I changed the back piece up a little bit, so it's a little different than the front piece. And then lastly, there is building 3, which is a lot more unfinished. This one I liked, though. I thought it had a kind of a neat shape to it, and doing some funky stuff with texture lights too, which I definitely liked. At nighttime, these buildings are kind of designed to illuminate their texture lights, and they all have some form of solar panel. Not much, like 1 or 2 solar panels, just enough to keep the texture lights on. So at night they kind of look a little more realistic that way. But again, if anybody wants any of these structures to do stuff with, or turn it into a base or whatever, 2 of them are on my workshop already, City Building 1 and City Building 2. This one is not because it wasn't complete enough, and I never got around to finishing it. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. Anyway, you all have a good day, and I'm going to think about modularity some more and try to change my style on it a little bit, and then actually try to make something functional. And again, the goal is to build a modular space station set, so I can build a lot of different space stations, which might primarily be used as POIs, but fairly quickly on the build time on them, in comparison to starting from scratch, building something completely new. All right, y'all have a good day. See you later.